Chapter 33, Consciousness. In the August paper, we tried to prepare you for a suggestion, a request that we wanted to make of you, in which we intimated would prove rather startling. This would be so only to those who have not grasped what is the real purpose of this work. For we regret to state that there still are some who have received all of these papers and who do not fully understand that these are not just a series of lessons to be learned, containing much wonderful knowledge for which they are very grateful, but that instead they have aligned themselves with a work, the first object of which is to prove their worthiness of participating in it by going with us to the kingdom, where their real parts will be assigned to them. Yes, such understand about the kingdom intellectually, and they have gained some idea of what's going to be required of them, but we think it has not penetrated much beyond arousing a hope that they will find the kingdom someday, when they can rid themselves of all these material problems facing them. They do not realize that the mastering of these very problems may be the door that admits them to the kingdom, and therefore their failure to master them is what is holding back from them their divine heritage. We mention this in explanation preparatory to stating our request, so you may know that if anything stands in the way of your doing what is asked, it is that which you failed to master. The quality or weakness of self-discovered on your journey to the kingdom, and which you thought unnoticeable to others and unimportant to the attainment of the goal, despite the fact you had repeatedly been impressed with the necessity of gaining perfect control of your mind and all its forces before the goal could be reached. We are going to assume, however, that most of you who have come with us this far are worthy and well qualified to do what we ask, although at first thought you may deem it impossible. But nothing is impossible, especially to those who have absorbed the truths taught you in the past 2 years. In other words, we are going to call upon you now to use some of these truths, and we propose to show you how to use them so that as your master self, you can take charge and get ready to do that for which all your past life has been a preparation. First, this means that you must get back into your I am consciousness as taught in the impersonal life, and many times repeated in various articles in these papers. Do not get frightened. Every one of you has been in that consciousness many times. In fact, you were in it every time you meditated in the silence and saw your little self in all its sordid and petty weaknesses with which you've been working so long. Also, whenever you spoke to the self and taught it the many things it has learned in the past. And now you should know that there are not two selves, that you are the only self, and that the other is but your instrument, your human mind, which should be as much an instrument to you and very much the same nature as your hand is to your mind. Think on this for a minute until it becomes perfectly clear. Do you have to speak to your hand when you want it to do anything for you? No. The moment you place the thought or the impulse in your mind, instantly the hand flies to obey, guided by the intelligence you embodied in the thought. In exactly a similar way will your mind be such an instrument when you have fully convinced it that it is nothing of itself, can do nothing, can have nothing, only as you give it of your intelligence and power to use. Gradually, it will learn this and will not try to do or be anything anymore, and will wait upon you for your word for everything, ever flying to do your bidding, just as does the hand. And above all, it will no longer think itself a self and separate from you, but will know It is your Christ consciousness embodied in your human brain to provide a channel through which the Father and the brotherhood can do their will on earth, even as in the kingdom of heaven. Thus, will its consciousness in time become wholly one with your consciousness as a son of God, which is one with the brotherhood and the Father's consciousness. And you can see from this how permanent divine union will be attained. And it is this same divine union we are now calling upon you to essay by going back into your Christ consciousness. Those of you who are not sure if you have ever been in that consciousness, we ask to do faithfully what follows, and you will know for yourself and will then ever afterwards be able to enter it at will. First, get quiet and still your human mind and all its thoughts. Then, speak commandingly the words as taught in the impersonal life. Be still and know, I am God. Speak them with all the force of your soul, your inner self, expecting to be obeyed. Then, in the quiet that ensues, open your heart and let love out. If you do not know how, it is by pouring your heart out to God in loving adoration. And think of God as the great self of you, whose life animates you, whose intelligence is your mind, whose power enables you to do all the things you do, who is also the life, intelligence, and power in all things outside of you. Continue to let love thus pour out of you, and while doing so, study that love. Note that it is coming from somewhere deep within you. Go within, where it is. Watch as you join with it. You are becoming absorbed in that love. Yes, you are merging into it, and it is possessing you. No, you are that love. Wonderful. You are love. You seem to have transferred your center of consciousness from the without of your mind to that love within you, which is now yourself and is now all that you are. As you realize this, you seem to expand greatly in consciousness. A veil lifts and a brilliant, beautiful light shines all about you. Your mind grows clear. A deep peace enfolds you. At the same time, a wonderful sense of power fills and thrills you, and you suddenly know, as vast knowledge floods your consciousness, that you are all that is, are I am that I am, that you and the Father are one, that He is love, that love is all, and that you are one in that love. If this is the first time you have experienced this ecstasy of the divine consciousness, it may last for but a few moments, or time may be forgotten, and you will rouse from it as from a wonderful dream. But herein we have shown you a sure way to enter this consciousness, and with persistence you will learn to enter it at will and to stay there for increasingly greater lengths of time as you practice abiding there. From this explanation, you will perceive the importance and purpose of the prayer, and now as you speak it in this new understanding, it should actually merge you into love, into the consciousness of Christ and all of your brothers in Christ every time you say it, so that you will love as thy love, see with their eyes, hear with their ears, and know with their understanding all things you seek and need to know, for then you will be one with them. In the last paper, we asked you to practice abiding in this consciousness during the month, thus preparing you for what was to follow. And now we ask you to begin to live in this consciousness, to accustom yourself to think, speak, and act as a son of God, even as did Jesus, your elder brother, when he was on earth. In asking this, we are but recalling you to your divine nature and requesting you to assume your true station and identity as a son of God. Did not our elder brother say, "Abide in me, and I in you, as a branch cannot bear fruit of itself, except it abide in the vine, no more can ye, except ye abide in me." Abide in his consciousness. I am the vine, ye are the branches. He that abideth in me, and I in him, thus becoming one with him in consciousness, the same bringeth forth much fruit. For without me ye can do nothing. John 15:4-5. Remember, you, the Christ of you, are speaking these words to your human mind, telling it that its life and consciousness come from you, even as the life and sap of the branch come from the vine, and without the two being joined, there is no life. Therefore, bring the consciousness of the branch, your mind, into complete oneness with your divine consciousness, so that its life can be complete as it longs to be. Do not think this impossible because of the cares and concerns of the world. For why, think you, did the Master lead you to this work and cause you to follow faithfully with us for 2 years on this journey inward to the kingdom? Has he not pointed out all the things met with on the way and explained carefully their significance, how to master and transmute their forces and to pass on? And have we not now arrived at the door of the kingdom, and are you not prepared and ready to enter? Then why hesitate? You have all the knowledge necessary. You have all the power. For who are you? You are a son of God, and are not this doubting, hesitating, shrinking part of you, which is only your human mind that eventually must lose its identity as a separate self. The dominance over your soul consciousness it has held so long has been greatly weakened by the truths taught it, and its influence will disappear altogether when you compel it to come. What it sees and learns within into your divine consciousness will convince it that the only life and the only happiness is while abiding there with you. You have remained out in the separate consciousness long enough. All your mortal life, the real you has been teaching and preparing your mind for this step. It really understands, sees the uselessness of further struggle, but awaits for you to assume mastery over it and compel it to come and abide with you within and be the servant you have been training it to be. For as many as are led by the Spirit of God, they are the sons of God. Romans 8:14. For I reckon that the suffering of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory which shall be. For the earnest expectation of the creature, when it has been taught the truth of its divine nature, waiteth for the manifestation of the Son of God, the entering and abiding in his consciousness. Romans 8:18-19. Because then the creature, the self created by the human mind, itself shall be delivered from the bondage of corruption into the glorious freedom of the children of God. Romans 8:21. How perfectly the above describes it. Paul truly understood. Now, for the practical way of doing this, there is but one way. First, by seeing and knowing yourself as a son of God, and then by acting as one. This can only be accomplished by earnestly studying all that has been shown, proving that you, in your higher and true self, are a son of God, and thereby convincing your mind that it is so. To assist further, we quote the following from 1 John. Beloved, now are we the sons of God, and it doth not yet appear what we shall be, but we know that when he shall appear, when we get back into true consciousness, we shall be like him, for we shall see him as he is, shall know ourselves as we really are in our divine natures. This will not be so difficult, for remember, you've been brought to where you are now by your divine self, who has promised to give you all the help necessary when you try the best you know how. For it is his purpose that you shall now come into that union for which he has so long been preparing you. So then again we say, let go, get self altogether out of the way, and let him take complete charge, doing whatever he tells you to do, and he will enable you. That ought to be easy, ought it not? Then let nothing keep you from doing it. And now for the final request. The time has come in group work when all members in groups should prepare themselves for the true work that is awaiting them. This work, of course, cannot be given until they are able to enter the Christ consciousness and abide there, at least during group meetings. So now we propose that beginning with the first September meeting, all members prepare themselves to attend in that consciousness, and while meeting, to do all their thinking, speaking, and acting from that consciousness. We mean just that and nothing less. It means that the personality must be left utterly behind, that during the meetings, you must get back within and be your divine self, must let love alone rule, so that you see only through the eyes of love, hear only with ears of love, and speak only words of loving kindness. Self and its interest must then be non-existent. Your only concern is the helping and blessing of others, thus serving as a pure and open channel through which the brotherhood of Christ can work on earth and do the Father's will. It may seem difficult at first thought to meet and abide in that consciousness, but if you will just let love continually pour out from your heart, so that it rules your mind and shines from your eyes, and you can feel it shining, you will be surprised at how easy it is. And when you do that, love will tell you what to say and do, will speak and do it through you. We suggest that the group appoint one of its members, who they think is the best qualified in Christ's love and wisdom, to correct and call the attention of any member who descends from the consciousness, or when it is uncertain if the personality or the higher self speaks, in some such manner as this. Who is speaking? Do you mean that? Or think, is that the real you talking? This in order to help each one understand and get back into the I am consciousness when slipping out of it. You will find that the experience resulting will prove very interesting as well as most helpful, and will train and accustom you to speak and act from that consciousness as nothing else will. Be not discouraged at mistakes or failures, for they are to be expected. But practice will make you so that before many meetings, you will be very grateful at being led into this phase of the work. We will not state in advance what will result, but will let the results speak for themselves. For if you persist until you become established in the consciousness during meetings, you will have entered the kingdom, and there, as you know, all things are not only possible, but will be added unto you without ever your asking, as has been promised. This, of course, does not preclude or prevent those not in groups from likewise entering the kingdom. It perhaps may be harder for such, for in groups each will lovingly help the others, while alone the disciple will have to work with no other assistance than that of the higher self. But all such are promised sufficient help if they do fully their part. The law is no respecter of persons, especially the law of love. We earnestly pray, as we know do all the brothers of the kingdom, that many dear souls receiving these teachings will enter the kingdom this fall, bringing a rich harvest of new laborers to work in the Master's vineyard. Consciousness. We ask you to consider with us the fact that there are some trillions of cells in the human body, forming its various organs, the head, arms, legs, tissues, nerves, muscles, ligaments, skin, blood, bones, hair, nails, etc. Science is in agreement that these cells are all minute centers of consciousness, each with a native intelligence that works in unison with its fellows, forming with them the particular part of the body they comprise, and all under the direction of the group intelligence of their particular organ or part, while all such organs and parts are under the direction of the intelligence centralized in the brain, some say in the solar plexus. We want you particularly to note that these great numbers of cells forming your human body are individual centers of consciousness capable of understanding direction given them and doing different kinds of work in the organs they form. But if they are all centers of consciousness in your body, they must be centers of your consciousness, for the sum total of their consciousness must comprise your consciousness. Think, must this not be so? At least they comprise all of that phase of your consciousness related to your physical life. Then they must actually constitute your human soul. Go back to the articles on the soul, and you will find this is exactly what is there stated is the soul. Now, we want you to see that science has voiced a great truth in stating that the so-called physical cells are centers of consciousness. It admits that these cells are so minute that only the most powerful microscope on earth can detect them. Then we would say they are really consciousness and are not matter at all. For we now know that the atoms of so-called matter are formed by negative centers of energy revolving around another positive energy center, and this infinitesimal vortex of energy forms the smallest portion of matter conceivable to the human mind. But in what do these centers revolve, and what separates them one from another? Science says they float in the ether of space exactly as do the stars and planets in the heavens. We say that this ether in all space is only the consciousness of divine mind in which all things live, move, and have their being. From this, we would be justified in stating that the human body is not a body of matter, but is only a visible thought form clothing the soul. But you have learned that the soul is likewise a thought form in consciousness of a higher vibration clothing the spirit, which is the real you, a son of God in your spirit form, but who are in turn an idea in divine mind. Now, try to get this clearly. You are a soul, and yet you are a spirit inhabiting the soul, which inhabits a physical body, but all is consciousness. The human mind directs the consciousness in the body, the soul directs the consciousness in the mind, and the spirit directs the consciousness of the soul, and God directs the consciousness of the spirit. In other words, the direction has to be relayed down through the different directing agencies until the consciousness of the lowest receives the direction of the highest. And that seems to be the purpose of life, to purify and perfect these different agencies so that they will all be open, selfless channels in order that the direction of the highest can be perfectly received by the lowest, and the divine will may be done on earth even as it is in heaven. Now, let us see what practical use can be made of this knowledge. We have seen that all is consciousness, but there is only one consciousness, which we call the consciousness of God or divine mind. We have also seen that this consciousness can be relayed down or transmitted direct from divine mind even to the consciousness of the individual cells constituting the physical body. But we have learned that this can be done only when the human soul is pure and selfless enough, and then only through a human mind that also is selfless and under perfect. For know that just as the spirit or the higher self works only through the soul, so the soul works only through the human mind. But before the higher self from the soul can direct the human mind, or before the mind can consciously receive such direction, the soul must learn to cooperate with the higher self, and it can learn this only through experience gained when in a physical body, which means through the lessons learned and taught it through the human mind. In other words, the human mind is the soul in expression on the physical plane, no more and no less. In expression there, either for the experience needed, consciously needed by the soul but unconsciously by the mind, or to accomplish a definite purpose under the conscious direction of the higher self, conscious both to the soul and more or less to the mind. Think this over until it becomes clear. When all is plain, you will perceive that the consciousness of the cells of your body, your mind, of your soul, and of your higher self are all your consciousness, and that your consciousness is God's consciousness. And when you truly know this, then there are not 5 different grades or planes of consciousness, but only one, God's consciousness, now yours. But of what avail is this to you? When you do know this, you will find you can do easily all of the following things. You can speak to the consciousness of the cells of any organ or part of your body and tell them just what you want them to do. For instance, if there is any inharmony or poor functioning or pain in any part, explain to their consciousness your wishes about the correction of this condition, and the cells will hasten to obey you. You can speak to your mind itself and tell it to do anything you wish done. And if you will explain to it clearly your idea, it will accomplish it perfectly, no matter what it is, if it is within the capacity and realm of the mind. You can speak to your soul, and it likewise will do whatever you direct it to do, if it pertains to the nature and realm of the soul. The above are but indications of what is possible when you truly know your identity as a son of God, your oneness with your higher self, and that all things exist only in consciousness, your consciousness, and therefore are all under your absolute control. We are consequently, in these hints, preparing you to understand what lies before you. When you are able to go back into your true consciousness, that of your higher self, and to think, speak, and act from there. For when enough of you can do that, we intend to give definite and detailed instructions how to speak effectively to the cells of your body, to your human mind, and to your soul, so that they will always render perfect service and produce for you any desired result. Remember, you are a spiritual being, a son of God, that the Father and you are one, and that all the Father has is yours, all of his wisdom, love, and power to use in this out-manifestation of his will, which simply means to make his outer expressions, your soul, mind, and body, even as he is, all good, all beautiful, all rich, all happy, all harmonious, all perfect. These statements are not to be merely read and accepted as a beautiful theory of what you can do, but are given you that you may try, with persistence, to prove their truth, so you will know for yourself. For if you do prove them, you will have uncovered the most wonderful and desirable knowledge that could be given you for use in your human affairs. In fact, it will enable you to bring these affairs into perfect harmony and consonance with your true life in the kingdom. Therefore, heed these words and win this priceless gift. Those who are worthy will be given all the assistance needed. A statement of being. This is to be studied and repeated daily as many times as possible until the mind fully accepts its truth, and you will find yourself speaking and acting in its consciousness. I am a son of God, a spiritual being, living always in the kingdom of divine mind. In this, my true consciousness, there is for me no lack or limitation of anything good. From my human mind's viewpoint, however, there is no direct evidence of this. Yet I am teaching it through long, hard experience, bringing to it much struggle, suffering, and failure, that the human self of itself is nothing, can have nothing, can do nothing, and that I am all that is, that I give it all that it ever gets, and empower it to do all that it ever does. So that now it is learning that it is not, and that I alone am, that I, as a son of God, know all things and have all power, that whatever the Father has, the Son has, and likewise what the Son has, his human reflection must have, that it therefore has it always, has all good things ever available when it comes back into my consciousness and sees there with my eyes. From this, it glimpses that it is but an instrument that I am preparing, purifying, and perfecting through these experiences, apparently getting it ready for some use I intend to make of it later. It is thus realizing that with my being a son of God, and thereby having all things, I naturally have no desire and no need except that of expressing my perfect life through it, my human self, and if it feels a desire or a need, it is but an indication that the thing desired is about to manifest. Otherwise, it would not be felt. That being so, it is gradually realizing that for it also there is no need, all good things being always present, and it is learning to let go of its personal ideas, desires, and opinions, and to go about its business unconcerned, knowing that all needed things will be taken care of and provided by me, as surely as the lungs will receive air and the next breath. It is likewise learning to pay no attention to appearances, that what seems real and important to the outer senses are but thought pictures formed in the mind, and which, if good, fall far short of the goodness and perfection that are ever seen in divine mind, or, if bad and undesirable, such do not exist, except in the mortal mind. Therefore, it is perceiving that in order to see the truth, it has but to close its mortal eyes and mind, and to look with the eyes of spirit, my eyes, when all the riches and glories of the kingdom shine forth and are clearly visible. When one thus sees reality, all the illusions of separation disappear, even as when looking at the sun there are no shadows. All is light.